not just giving people access to running, but we're giving people access to leadership. And just like you said, right, to know that, yes, you can run and you can also be someone in this space that is knowledgeable, that's exactly what's needed in the room.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Set the Pace, the official podcast of New York Roadrunners presented by Peloton. Happy New Year to everybody. If you haven't heard from us yet, this is, I guess, technically our second podcast of the year since we had one on New Year's Day, but the first time I've seen Bex in 2026. Hi, Bex. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Great to see you. Congratulations on a wonderful midnight race, should I say?
Yes.
Weather was good this year. It was all safe, and it was cold. It was very cold.
It was cold, but you know, it's New Year's Eve in New York City, so you can't really expect. But
one of the coldest in years.
It was cold.
I hear.
It was very cold. Yes, I felt it. Thank you very much, by the way. It was a great day. We had, I think, over 4,000 runners out there on New Year's Eve, and it was super festive. Everybody had a great time. We had the sparkling cider. We had amazing fireworks. We had glow-in-the-dark bibs that said Happy New Year under the ultraviolet light. So it was really a great night. But yeah, it was cold. It was so cold, in fact, Bex, that when I finished running, I mean, you know, I a lot of the time I like to hang around the finish line and give people high fives and all that.
Of course.
Bex, I just kept on running. I ran past the
home
finish line right to the apartment. I was like, okay, bye, everybody. Happy New Year.
Head down.
Oh, yeah. I had to get out of that cold. It was a chilly night, but it was a great way to ring in the new year. So hope everybody who came out enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. We'll talk about the top times in a minute, but how was your holiday season?
It was wonderful. It was a really nice break out of the city to refresh and be in the cold. It's just constantly snowing and frozen up where I am these days, which is amazing. We got onto the mountain, which is 5 minutes away from us. We have been ice skating because the lake is fully frozen over.
Oh yeah.
So we've been ice skating on the lake and taking the dogs for a walk on the lake, which is really weird. Seeing my city dogs in boots and socks and coats. I'm like, what is happening to us?
That sounds adorable. I hope you posted that on Instagram. I need to see that.
I need to. I need to catch up on social. That's another thing. It's nice to be off social. Not that I'm keeping a secret where we've moved to, but I like to. I'm trying to keep it kind of private, and it's nice to not be constantly posting up here, just picking and choosing. But it was great. There were fireworks in the street in this tiny little dead end that we live in, which was our neighbors firing off a huge box of fireworks.
I love it.
Yeah, we were in our PJs at their house until about 1 o'clock and then went to bed. So it was chill.
It's a real winter we're having so far. I feel like it's been a while in the New York area since we had a real winter, but you know, it snowed the day after Christmas. And, you know, in Connecticut where I am, and I know where you are upstate, it's been white ever since. And it's just been a lot of cold days in New York. A little bit of a warm up this week. I know people are feeling good about that. Something that starts with a 4 feels really good when it's been starting with 1s and 2s. But we're Fahrenheit, of course. I know you know what I'm talking about. But yes, it's been nice. And so, Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope folks are finding ways to get some of those runs in. And of course, Bex, you've been giving folks a great way to get runs in with your 67 strong initiative, raising money for Save the Children. And so many people who are trying to get kind of restart or maybe just start for the first time a running routine as a New Year's resolution. This is a great way to do it. How's that going?
Absolutely. It's great. Huge thanks to everybody who has donated. You know, you're not donating to me, you're donating to Save the Children, which is battling to fight hunger for children around the world. Biggest thing I will say is it's a mile a day. You do not have to do it running. You can walk it, you can bike it, you can swim it. You can do whatever you want. You can combination it. You can walk, jog. It's just a matter of moving our bodies and doing it with a purpose, because I do find, especially in the new year, when we've got these patterns that maybe we establish or reestablish into our routines, it's easier to be consistent. And when there's a cause behind it, it makes it even easier to remember to do it. I'm adding in a little strength thing this time as well on days 6 and 7 every week. I just want people to do 67 strength moves over that 48 hours. You don't have to do it all in one go. You can split it, but like, I don't know, do 67 push-ups 1 week and 67 squats the next week, just to bring in a little bit of strength training too, because we need it. We all need it, no matter how young, how old we are. We need that strength training. So if you want to check it out, head to my Instagram. It's, again, as I said, for Save the Children, battling hunger. It happens in the US. It's not just abroad. I think our first thought for most people is to think that it is a charity that works for children and families only overseas, and that's not the case. Hunger happens far too often right here in our own country. There are far too many children who are under the poverty line here in the US. So just know that anything you donate goes to your own soil as well.
Absolutely. Great idea, great initiative, and I hope folks are out there taking advantage of that, because hey, if you do 67 days out of the gate, next thing you know, it'll be March, and you will have moved every single day, and you'll probably just keep that momentum going all throughout the year. So
pretty much into spring.
Yeah, come on, let's get going. I love it. It's a great way to start the year. Awesome. Well, we mentioned the midnight run and the winners from that night. I'm always curious how many people go out at the midnight run and like go hard to win, because like you've got to plan your whole evening around going out and really racing the midnight run. Not like me, who had already been to a party earlier that evening.
Just, you had a little jolly jog.
It was a jolly jog at that. Yes, it was definitely a jolly jog. And so that was more the speed I took on that one. But Alosha Southern won on the women's side, 22-17, a graduate, by the way, of Wilton High School up the road from where I live in Connecticut. So congrats to her. The non-binary winner, Adrian McAfee, 29-20. And on the men's side, it was Jaoud Al-Jazuli. We've heard of him before, and he's run well many times. 1951, United Mexican Runners of New York. Congrats to all the winners. All right, Bex, coming up on today's show, an awesome conversation with a woman who has literally changed the game of running and especially coaching in the sport of running. Vanessa Peralta-Mitchell, founder of an organization called Game Changers, which began as a personal response by her to a lack of diversity in running, especially in the coaching space. She's trying to get more women of color to become coaches. And we know how important that is. You certainly know, Bex. We all know at Roadrunners how important that representation is in the coaching ranks, because that's what gets people running. You need people you can look up to who look like you for so many folks to get them moving and running. And that's what Vanessa has done. We've got a great partnership at New York Roadrunners with her organization, Game Changers. We're excited to talk about that as well. So that is coming right up.
Peloton is taking running and race tech to the next level with the new Peloton cross-training series Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. Built for runners who want top-tier performance, the Tread Plus helps you train smarter and get race-ready with precision. Peloton IQ offers personalized insights that evolve as you progress, so you can fine-tune your pacing and peak at the right moment. And with strength workouts designed to build the muscle you need to support every mile, your training goes beyond the run. Plus, pace target classes designed to build consistency, boost speed, and improve your splits. Every single run supports your full training cycle, from recovery miles to challenging race pace intervals. Experience our most advanced tread yet at onepeloton.com. Peloton, the official digital fitness partner of New York Roadrunners.
Vanessa Peralta-Mitchell is a runner turned trailblazer who has taken it upon herself to transform the running world from the inside out. A daughter of Ecuadorian immigrants, a wife, and a mother of 3, Vanessa found inspiration in an HBO documentary about women in sports, which spurred her to start running as a tribute to the trailblazers before her. She eventually realized that very few running coaches and experts looked like her. So in 2020, this former project manager founded Game Changers, a program to help women of color become certified run coaches. Since then, Vanessa has guided dozens of women into coaching. She's built a nationwide community of diverse runners and even earned a major industry award for shaking up the status quo. Vanessa is here with us today to talk about how her personal mission, born from her mother's advice and from her own experience, is changing the face of running. Vanessa, welcome. Great to see you.
Yes, great to see you too. This is a great day, and I can't wait to start this conversation.
So good to have you here. And thank you, first of all, for everything that you do for women of color and for women in the sport world and in running. It is truly, truly inspirational. Um, let's go back a little bit. You've been doing this for a while, as Rob said, since 2020, and you've spoken about walking into your coaching cert course, looking around the room and realizing that it was just you who looked like you, a woman of color. There was nobody else representing you in that. What did you feel about that, and how did it reveal your true thoughts about the industry you're about to step into?
Oh yeah, wow! You say that, and I'm like whisked right back into that room. But I felt very, that sense of, do I belong here? That first feeling about how I felt personally, it felt that maybe I wasn't ready for this step. Maybe I was in over my head. Maybe this was the wrong path for me. But in that same essence, I think what kept me there was those families and my friends that really had that belief in me, which got me into that room. So I like to say that I worked up the funds and the nerve to be there. And even though I feel like maybe everyone else in the room was coming from a different place, and it even felt like they knew more than I did, but it was the fact that my family and friends saw me in this light. And I just wanted to step up to that space where they had already seen me. So at first it was very personal, right? I felt that, oh my goodness, like maybe I will just resort to what feels comfortable, and that's to be small because I felt small. And, that to me was my presence and my voice, that therefore I started to shrink. And what I resorted to, which is what I did when I was growing up, which is kind of like fade to the back.
Yeah.
I was really good at being in the background. And so that was the first feeling. And then, understanding that once I got over that, I did pass that test. I did, become a coach, understanding that that feeling in that room was something that I was seeing within the industry, right? So visibly in that room, I was the one of two people of color, but the only woman of color, and understanding that in the industry, that is the same scenario I saw in every room, in every space, in every leadership you know, um, co-branding that I was able to be a part of. And it started to reveal to me that that room was really an example of what the industry was lacking, and that was having the voice of women of color in that expertise and in that leadership space.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to the beginning of your running journey, Vanessa. You grew up in Hackensack, New Jersey, not far outside the city. Billy Joel song, "Who Needs a House Out in Hackensack?" One of my favorite lines. How did you first get into running? Where did that start?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely involved in sports. Like when I think about literally, first moments of running, I'm reminded of my father and me playing soccer in Vanson Park in Paramus, or Fashini Park in Hackensack, and he would not take it easy on me. I mean, he was throwing bows and he was, guarding, his space around the soccer ball, and I remember like always fighting and always like feeling like I never felt that he wasn't being unfair. I just felt like I wanted to beat him, So that was like the first moments of running. When it came to like the sport of like long distance, it really went. I can remember one time specifically that a friend in college asked me to go for a run. And at that point, going through high school sports of like basketball, soccer, and softball, running just to run without like a ball involved wasn't like a thing for me. So I
Yeah.
kind of asked her like why, and she's like, oh, let's just go out. And we went to like around the block, and I remember just going to the corner thinking like, oh my goodness, like I'm out of breath. And it felt a little bit harder, honestly, than I thought originally. But even with those, coming from sports, and my friend kind of planting a small seed in terms of like, hey, you can do this. It was a documentary that I saw that really catapulted me into the running space, unknowingly to me, the documentary that pretty much sent me on a totally different trajectory.
What was that? Just to show HBO some love. What was the documentary?
Yeah, it was a woman in sports documentary that I saw. I want to say circa 2002-ish, maybe,
Okay,
give or
got it.
take.
Mm-hmm.
And it covered a whole bunch of different types of sports. But the thing that got me the most is like whatever sport that they were showing, the inequities that women had to face just to participate in this sports was mind-boggling to me. Here I am, I remember sitting in my parents' house in Jersey at the time and like really not being aware that the level of sports and the professional level, I didn't realize it wasn't accessible to women and that women really had to literally fight to have the same type of access. And again, they showed a whole bunch of different types of sports, but the one that spoke to me was KV Switzer's story and seeing what she had to go through and understanding that, maybe I can't pick up and be a part of the WNBA, or maybe I can't play professional soccer right now, but running, back then growing up in North Jersey, like New York City Marathon was something that I had become aware of, but not something that I would do, more something that I would witness. But running became, her story made it that more realistic, like, or maybe even curious, I would say. I was like, maybe I could do that too. I was so moved by the documentary. I wanted to pay homage to the women before me. Like, what could I do to show like that solidarity and the fact that I was grateful to them? And so that's the day, right in the living room of my Hackensack, New Jersey space. But I promised myself that I was going to run a marathon.
Catherine's story is just something that changed the trajectory for so many women who have heard about it. There might be somebody out there today who's listening to this for the first time, hearing her story, and are going to go and research it, or people who know it inside out. But you're right, it stirs up something in anyone. If it doesn't compel you to make a change somewhere, I worry about people. So let's talk about what it compelled you to do. You just said you wanted to run, and you decided to run you decided you wanted to run a marathon before you'd really even started running. Is that right?
Yeah, I was that crazy in that moment. I mean, that's how moved I was. But my goal was to run the New York City Marathon. And I remember living with a roommate not too far after that. And I literally had like 5 goals that I taped to our fridge. And like New York City Marathon was like number one. So it was that, like, that type of, promise that you make to yourself that you're like, one day, like, this is a bucket list, like, this is what I'm going to do. It took me so many years to do it, but I eventually ended up moving near Philadelphia, where I live now. And so that goal, I had to really understand that it was okay that that first time was going to be the Philadelphia Marathon. I will say I did eventually run the New York City Marathon. That's a whole nother story, but yeah, it got me on that path. I set a goal in my mind, I wrote it down, and then I started to tell other people. Now, I don't come from a running space, no family, no friends, no one in our circles of community, no one ran. So it was a big deal to hear, and for me to even say, I want to run 26.2 miles, almost didn't even fathom like what that distance actually was.
Yep.
But I started to get the training once I found a community of people that were training for it.
That's one of the things that can be so hard, Vanessa, for people where there's no running in the family. You don't have friends doing it, right? So you have this idea, and you don't have someone accessible to you to tell you how to do it. People are probably giving you strange looks, like, "Wait, what? Why do you want to do this?" Right? I'm sure you got some of that. What did you do? How did you find that first community? Because I'm sure a lot of that plays into what you're doing with Game Changers, right? Is like having those folks to support you and tell you how you even go about doing something like running 26.2 miles. So who guided you through those first marathons?
Yeah, it's funny. My husband and our firstborn was actually my first support system. I remember running around our nearby high school track now that I live closer to Philly, which that track no longer even exists. But, in a big old sweatshirt and some big sweatpants. I think I was wearing his sweatshirt, some like shoes from college. So when you don't have that sense of being passed down that knowledge and the sport of long distance running, sometimes that barrier is that we don't have that generational passing of the baton, so to speak. You end up fending for yourself and figuring things out on your own. I didn't know you're not supposed to wear sneakers that are like years old, and that I'm wearing cotton hoodies and all those things. But my husband was sitting there with our newborn, on the bench cheering for me while I'm like just running around this track. So like figuring out what to do on your own is that first step, and then understanding that it's okay to tell people what you want to accomplish, even if it sounds crazy to you. And that's what I was doing. I started telling people. Before I knew it, I was getting in contact with different groups around this area that were training for the Philadelphia Marathon. And more seeds were planted now that I'm looking back, but in the moment I didn't realize that not only the people in charge of that group, but also every expert and leader that they brought in to kind of give us the insight, give us those tips, give us this, green light of like, yes, you have the knowledge now to keep going. All the people that they brought in were of the same gender and the same race. And I didn't know it, but that was the message I had gotten long before I even entered that certification room.
That's incredible, though, that I just the whole process of how your brain has taken you on that journey, like from kind of sitting on your couch. I mean, it really was, right? You were sitting on your couch watching a documentary on HBO to that point of like huge change. And we see these like couch to 5K, couch to whatever. And this is like a whole different process that your body and your brain were kind of going through almost separately in a weird way, because you like made that huge decision and your body was going to have to catch up to your brain's decision. And I love it. I love it. It's massively inspirational. Okay, so we've got the marathon training underway, and then you've done Philly, which I hear, I've never done it, but my partner's from Philly and he's done it, and a lot of people say it's quite a tough one because you have to go past the half marathon finish line and then kind of go out and come back. What was the feeling for you when you then took the next step to the next marathon after that? Like, what, I guess I'm trying to ask, like, did something feel ticked off in your mind, or was there like another door was opened?
Yeah. Well, first, whenever you're ready to come to Philly, let me know. I got you. We all got you here.
We love Philly. It's a great event.
Yeah.
Philly has a wonderful, beautiful running community, so we got you next.
Thank you.
After I did that, I became like the go-to person that people would like be curious about or interested to start running. Leading up to the marathon, I'd done like 10Ks and 5Ks and half marathons, and I think when I turned 30, my husband and I went to Madrid. I did the Madrid marathon, so I was like, I had gotten the bug times 10. You know what I mean? So I infused myself into the sport. I went from like this green, unknowing space to being kind of propelled into this almost leadership role that I didn't even know people were seeing me in, but I was getting constantly those questions. And I, also wanted to do more. And then I was being seen more in that space of leadership and expertise. So I really don't know if that path would have done anything more than just keep me into running and doing the things. But I will say it circles back to a moment I had with my mother that really kind of changed and shift things for me a bit. I have my business VCPM Inc. I am the creator of the Game Changers program, but I'm also the daughter of Clay and Carmen Peralta. And when my mom had a very heartfelt conversation with me when I was, I think, near 40 years old, my mom, she's the strongest person. I hope y'all meet Carmencita one day, but she is the strongest person that I've known in my entire life. And she had come to this realization that when she came to this country with a lot of her hopes and dreams, that she chose motherhood, she chose matrimony, and she chose to put those dreams on the side. And, something had happened within our family that in that moment she came to a realization that she had never actually took those things off the shelf, right? She never fulfilled those hopes and dreams that she came here with. And in that moment, in her vulnerability, we're both sharing and shedding tears at that moment, but it was as if she was pouring that all back into me, right? So she was pouring her hopes, her dreams, her aspirations, and her desires. So when I came to a point of what I was doing and understanding that there's a need for change here, my mom really gave me that feeling of empowering myself to do something about it. And I didn't leave that moment with my mom thinking I was going to start a business. I held it tight to my chest for a while, but I can look back and know that that was the moment that I created my business. I became an entrepreneur, and I said, there's something that needs to be done here. And this girl from Jersey is going to do something about it.
I love that moment. And these entrepreneurial kind of sparks, they come in a lot of different places, but I love the fact that it came from, your immigrant mother and her hopes and dreams. And here you are making it happen. So let's talk about that business. Game Changers, a program that helps women of color become certified run coaches. What was the moment that you said, okay, I'm really doing this. I'm going to actually start this. And what's kind of the origin story of Game Changers itself?
Yeah. So, in being in the spaces and seeing that same type of leader, and wanting to do something different about it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something on my own. I had been working with brands and businesses, and I was like, I'm going to do something on my own that showcases only women of color, as, certified run coaches that are experts in this space. And so I was doing something locally, it was going to be a free event. I called it the All Women's Run Panel. And when I went to go look for those certified run coaches that were women of color, I was kind of surprised that I couldn't find many. Mm-hmm. Even those who I thought maybe had those credentials, they either weren't aware of the opportunity or they had looked into it, but the cost of it was just a bit much. So
the credentialing you're talking about is the RRCA, the Road Runners Club of America coach certification.
Yes, and that's definitely one of the most well-known. There are other certifications entities as well, but our RCA is the one that we work with. So in seeing that there weren't a lot of women of color that were in this space, I still had my panel. I still had 2 out of the 5 panelists as women of color, and it was just a matter of putting the event together. It was going to be at this free space, a bra fitting, a shoe giveaway. We had vendors and food. We were doing a group run. I mean, Bex, you would have loved it, by the way.
Sounds amazing.
You too, Rob. It was open for everybody, all genders and all paces and faces. But, 2 weeks before the event was to launch in 2020 in March, I'm sure we all can remember the feeling of everything being shut down. And so was my event. So, taking those couple of months off, it was really something so simple. We went down the shore with my family, and I had this idea to create a buff. And I was thinking like, oh, well, maybe I will make this as swag for the All Women's Run panel, and maybe I'll make the event virtual. And it went from a free event to like, well, maybe I'll charge for this event and then use some of those funds and change what I've been seeing, right? Which is, how do we get more women of color to become certified? And like I said, some people just didn't have the awareness, but also some people couldn't afford it. So I was like, well, we could use some of this registration costs to pay for 5 women to get certified. And that's where it really began, was using that event and making it more virtual, charging for that event, and then using some of those funds to fund a couple of women. But it wasn't just a couple of women. The event definitely, and really more the mission of, with Game Changers, we provide the resources and funds so more women of color can become certified run coaches. But the mission there is redefining who people see as the expert and leader in the running industry. So it went quickly from 5. That first cohort actually had 16. And it was a real testimony that not only was this something that I saw or a couple people saw, but nationwide, we were getting the interest in all capacities.
Wow.
Wow, that's incredible. And I love your brain process of just how to pivot in a time of completely unprecedented chaos in the world to make something that actually probably ended up being bigger and better for all of the women out there who were looking to you. Tell me, what for you, when you see those 5 to 16 to hundreds of women now, when you see them get their run certification and return to their running communities and, you know, take your message on and your mission, what does that mean to you to watch them do that?
It feels like a blessing. It comes from a very emotional space. You know, no one tells you how transformative being a business owner is. I have my levels of vulnerability are so apparent. It's not even funny. Like, I used to be such a composed person, and if you want to tap into emotion, become a business owner. But seeing the women carry on the mission of Game Changers, and in essence, you know, taking ownership of it for themselves and being that nucleus, whether that's within their family or their communities or essentially the industry, has been breathtaking. It's been such a beautiful blessing. You know, understanding that the reason why Game Changers exists, and knowing my why with what I do, and knowing that each game changer can take that why and really formulate it into their version of it. It means something so special that that can be passed on, and not that we are keeping it for ourselves, but we are using coaching, yes, to get people to start lines and finish lines, but really using it as a vehicle for impact. You know, going back to that certification and seeing who's in front of the room, we're using coaching to change who that person is in front of the room, to change who's seen on the microphone, to change who's on the panels, who's being cited as expert sources, who's writing books, who's paving the way. And we're doing that through this vehicle, that I'm blessed to say that everyone is taking what I saw as really as a young girl with my mom, and everyone taking that and having it resonate with them in a way that normalizes to everyone else, whether that's in their neighborhoods or whether that's the running space at large, normalizing that we are the leaders and experts as well in this space.
Vanessa, are there any stories, you know, people who have come through your program that you can think of as kind of doing a good job of summing up the impact of it? You know, can you think of one or two women whose stories you can share and to really let us understand what it really means to have people like this in this space?
Yeah, so, you know, Coach Lee out of Florida comes to mind. She came into the Game Changers program, and it's an application process. So when she came into the program, I remember her during the introduction call when we have each, you know, woman talk a little bit about who they are and what they do. And I remember she was one of the last to go, and she had said something like, "I'm just blessed to be here." She's like, "I'm not even sure like how I got into this room with all you amazing people." And it was like, you know, press pause on that. Like, you're phenomenal. You're amazing for being here. And, you know, a lot of the times it's really a journey to find that confidence, not just to say like, "Hey, I'm a coach," but also like, "Hey, I'm a woman of color and I have value to bring here, and I'm demanding and proclaiming my space so I could be heard, seen, and valued." And so when she entered and she was on that intro call and going through the 9-month program, it's 9 months. So you get certified, you get a business strategist to understand what you want to do with that certification, and then you get a structured mentorship from another fellow woman of color certified run coach who's just been in the game a little bit longer.
Nice.
So Coach Lee, who went through this 9-month program, now she turned her running group into a successful running group. She has started her own business, R&D Running, and she has really infused her daughter. So when we do our meetups in person, her daughter Ruthia is along, and her daughter now is also in like golfing. And so it's almost like this version of maybe future Game Changers somewhere in golfing, because just from her being around us and understanding the bigger message doesn't just lie within running, right, but lies within having the ability to amplify those voices that aren't heard in the room. So Coach Lee definitely comes to mind, and the progress that she has made by being in the Game Changers program. And another one that really hits when I think about, examples, I think of Coach Diana out in Washington. She, went through the 9-month program and went back to her reservation. And, when they go to the clinic, now the doctors prescribe her running program as a way to combat diabetes. And so now she's infused in her reservation, in her community, as not only a business person, right, but someone that can give back to the community in a way that is not only true to being a game changer, but also true to her and her values and the people that she wants to serve and coach. Yes. Yes, exactly. So, and there's stories for days and weeks, and they don't have to be big. They can be smaller stories of someone just finding the confidence. Our own data shows us that 89.5% of game changers that go through the program find that confidence as a coach, and then 68% find that additional confidence in life. So again, it's just a beautiful, beautiful blessing to be here. And when I think about the stories, just a wonderful example and testimony to what Game Changers is beyond just the 9-month program.
So let's talk about the changes then that you've seen when it comes to women of color in the running world, in the fitness wellness space. Have you and are you honestly seeing that representation and change moving in the way that you'd hoped to 5 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. There's so much change that's happening within the industry, and it's not just specific to women of color, or even diversity. There is organizations that are doing a lot of work to make change in this space. I automatically think of the Running Industry Diversity Coalition, RIDC. They're doing such wonderful work working with different brands and organizations and having them understand the importance of diversity, and also collecting the data to back that up. I think of organizations like Native Women Running and Verna and her team that ensure that Native women have that not only participation, inclusion, but also the representation of being at these major races. I think of For All Mothers, the understanding and importance of women athletes, but also, understanding that women come to the sport, especially if they just newly had a baby or are expecting one, and they need that level of support on race day that's a little bit different. So many wonderful organizations that are doing the work to change the industry. I think of New York Road Runners. I know you have a big push for sustainability. And so I think about equity. How about equity for this earth, right? So there are so many beautiful, wonderful things that are happening in addition to what Game Changers is doing. And I think 5 years ago, that looked a lot different. So I know that there is so much work being done, and of course, so much work that needs and yet to be done. But knowing that there is a space where we're all hopeful and believe that this future of running long distance, the sport, health and wellness, it can look different. And the fact that we all know that we play a major part in it, I think that's the special part that maybe wasn't there 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that running has had a boom in the last 5-6 years, right? The pandemic brought so many people to running, and we see it at New York Road Runners, of course, the interest in getting into our races and the marathon and all that. But what you and people like you and some of the other folks you just mentioned are doing is making sure that that boom is not just isolated to one type of person, to one demographic, to one income level, right? The boom is spread across all kinds of folks, because we know, as we call it in our organization, in our mission statement, about the transformative power of running, right? But why should only a certain set of people get to experience that? And so that's what you're really doing, it's just the exposure, right? Because so much in life is not a desire to do something, it's the knowledge to even know that it's a thing to do. You need to see someone doing it and say, oh wait, maybe I could do that, because we can't all just imagine things out of thin air. We need to see it sometimes to even know that it's something we could aspire to, Vanessa.
Absolutely. And a lot of times with the Game Changers program, I like to think about, we're not just giving people access to running, but we're giving people access to leadership. And just like you said, right, to know that, yes, you can run and you can also be someone in this space that is knowledgeable and that is valued for what you're bringing to the table. And for Game Changers in particular, I find that that comes from our lived experiences, right? And sometimes we downplay that. We show up, when I showed up to that certification room, all I had was my family, friends, and what I had lived through. I didn't have a track background. I didn't find running till I was like 25 years old. I didn't have this knowledge of the sport, but I had this lived experience of what it felt like to be in a room and not be heard, to figure things out on your own, to rely on your family and your communities. And sometimes we don't realize that when you're different, that's exactly what's needed in the room, and that's what's exactly needed in the space, like the industry. Because when we keep doing things the same, we can't expect anything to change.
That's
right.
So
the more that we have these different people and these different ideas and perspectives and voices, the more the real beauty of what this sport represents will come and shine through.
Yeah, wonderfully said. Wonderfully said. Well, let's talk about a little bit how people can, literally this week, the day this podcast comes out, actually, how people can apply for this year's Game Changers NYC cohort, because this Thursday, January the 8th, is the second year of the partnership between Game Changers and New York Roadrunners. And applications are going to be coming in, I'm sure, like flying in. Talk us through what are the long-term goals for this?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for mentioning that. Yes, applications do open January 8th. We're really excited to have this second year of partnership with New York Roadrunners. And for the New York City cohort, it does include those three main components, like I said before, which is the certification, funding, and also the business strategist and the mentorship. But with New York Roadrunners, we also have a fourth component, which is apprenticeship. So, they'll be able to really step into this space. They'll be able to kind of exercise those muscles of being a coach by joining the group training and Ben and Gemma and their team. So shout out to Ben and Gemma, of course. And it's a paid internship. And so that really sets the stage, because as we come into this space, we want to ensure that we are valued, that our coaches are valued. And with New York Roadrunners, we're able to do that. But in terms of long term, in working and building Game Changers, we've seen the success of the program. That goal of 5 women is now 167 coaches in 29 states. We just added Louisiana and Alaska. We're also in Washington, D.C. And finding the success nationwide, it's the idea of imagine what we can do if we go into your city, right? Imagine the pipeline and the ecosystem of women of color leaders that we can infuse, because you know what? They're already there. They're already in their communities. They're already doing their work. They're already getting their families and their neighbors and their home girl from high school coming out. They're ones that the run clubs and crews, and Rob, you know this. They're the heartbeat and the pulse of the industry. Yep. So if we can unify the women of color leaders in a space, and again, amplify that normalization of who's seen as expertise, not only in our neighborhoods and our boroughs, but also that shining light up industry-wise. So that's the future. That's what we want to see, is an ecosystem and a pipeline of leaders that are coming through the Game Changers program in partnership with New York Roadrunners.
Vanessa, we love our partnership with Game Changers. We're so thrilled to continue it into a second year, and we cannot wait to see who applies, who comes out of that, and then we can't wait to have them actually have a chance to coach with our coaches. You mentioned Ben Delaney, Gemma Ward, our incredible coaching team at New York Roadrunners. So they're going to get that opportunity to work with some of the best coaches in the business. Okay, so what do they actually do if they want to apply? Where do they go? What's the process?
Yes, so they can check out our newly established handle. So we started in 2020, but we just launched a handle. Everything was originally from my VCPM Inc., but now it's Game Changers Run. So on Instagram, it's at Game Changers Run, or they can go to vcpm.com NYRR.com/game-changers. And I'm sure we can put that somewhere where someone doesn't have to.
It'll be in our show notes for sure. Anybody listening to the podcast can go click on it, absolutely, to make it easy to find. And yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, you can literally apply right now because it opens up the day that we release this podcast. So it's going to be a game-changing opportunity, I think, for a lot of people out there listening to this podcast.
Yes, absolutely. And if anyone has any questions, if you're curious about what it is to be a run coach or what it is to be a part of the Game Changers program, we always have a Q&A right before application close. So the application will be open the 8th through the 25th. And then that Q&A is going to be January 15th at 7:30 p.m. So you can apply, register for that Q&A, whether you go through the application or we'll have it on our the links in the bio on IG. We'll have a way for you to register that way. So yeah, if you have any questions or if you're curious or if you just want to meet some coaches to get their experience, we welcome all to attend that Q&A. We can't wait to meet you all.
That's amazing. I love that there's a Q&A because I'm sure there's people out there who are wondering whether they have what it takes or whether they are the right fit. For those who are listening only, I was air quoting fit there. But it's like, it's just a wonderful space then to meet you, to meet other people who are already doing it and their potential future mentors, which is so cool. So yes, everybody apply if this is calling to you.
Who knows? Maybe Vanessa, we'll get some future Becks out of this program. Who knows? Maybe somebody on the Peloton tread could come out of this. What do you think?
We'd love it. We'd love it. Vanessa, for you though, we've talked a lot about what you do and how much you give to the community and to the world when it comes to running. But for you personally, what are your running goals right now as we're at the top of 2026?
Yeah, so oh my goodness, that's such a big, if you would have asked me this like maybe over a year ago, I would have said like, I'm so retired from marathons, but I came out of retirement about a year and change ago, and I hadn't ran a marathon since 11 years before that. So I kind of like, I'm curious whether I want to run, another marathon and kind of thinking about the original marathon course,
Oh yeah.
Athens.
Yes. Overseas in Athens. So I'm kind of curious about that. Also kind of curious about, I did run, NYC. I actually was supposed to run in 2012, but, Sandy kind of changed that. So I ended up running it 2013. But I wonder what the Vanessa of today would run it as. So I'm kind of curious about that. But we do have some race meetups this year. So we are going to be headed towards like Washington and Minnesota with our Game Changers. So I have some half marathons that are coming up both in June and later on in October. And we have another program. It's called Powered. So I'll be running a PDR, Philadelphia Distance Run, later this year in September. And then we also have a partnership with the race out in Atlanta. So those are some races I have that are coming up. But I don't know, Bex, if you have a suggestion for me, I'm always looking for something exciting and different. So.
Well, I know from being in the trail world, the women of color in the trail world is still pretty low. And, we've had some incredible guests on the podcast, Alison Desir, for example, who's a real advocate in that world. So, maybe there is a Game Changers on the trails, trail changes. There you go. Take it away. But let's, we can get our heads together.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And we do have some trail coaches too.
Great.
So I'm happy you said that. And it's funny that you mentioned Allison, because that's the run that we're considering to do our meetup. Actually, that's where we are meeting up. I just haven't put the word out yet, but we're going to do We Out Here Trail Fest in June. So
there we go. We were on the same wavelength.
Yes.
I love it. You're all over it. Vanessa, thrilled to have you on. I'm so excited to partner with you guys again. Can't wait to see where this all goes. But you've already done an amazing thing. You've created, in some sports they talk about a coaching tree. And each coach creates a tree of coaches underneath them, right? So think about it. You've spread a whole bunch of a little small forest of coaching trees out there that will all lead to more and more and more, and really truly have changed the game when it comes to the sport of running and who's out there leading in the space. So congratulations on what you've done. Can't wait to keep working with you on this, and apply out there. If you're listening, if you got a friend you think might be interested, send this podcast to them so they can hear Vanessa's story and apply themselves. That way the word gets out there. Vanessa Peralta-Mitchell, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Bex. And thank you, everyone listening. The support for Game Changers has been outstanding, and just really feeling blessed to be here with you both to get the word out even more. So thank you again.
New York Roadrunners is a nonprofit organization with a vision to build healthier lives and stronger communities through the transformative power of running. The support of members and donors like you helps us achieve our mission to transform the health and well-being of our communities through inclusive and accessible running experiences, empowering all to achieve their potential. Learn more and contribute at nyrr.org/donate. All right, if you like this episode, folks, make sure you subscribe, rate it, leave a comment so we can hear from you. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the miles. Enjoy the Joe Kleinerman 10K this weekend. We'll see you next week.